Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Hope all of you are going. Hope all of your evenings are going great. Hope everyone's evening is going great. This first first night of May, uh, yeah, brand new month. Uh, have any of you been watching the playoffs of the NBA? What are you guys' reactions to Draymond getting ejected? Um, it was a shocker to me. Uh, didn't see that one coming at all. Um, I can't believe it, man. And I'm a Warriors fan, so I'm just as shocked as all of you. Uh, welcome to another episode of Wrestling Quick Takes. This week I'm gonna be talking about what made WCW so great. WCW definitely gave us some moments of glory. At times, they gave us some moments to forget, but through it all, they they were the premier company in professional wrestling. And you know, I tend to think that had things been done right and had Eric Bischoff had Eric Bischoff been more smart and more wise, I believe that WCW would still be around today. And I believe they would be revolutionizing professional wrestling, doing things that we never seen before. But instead, he kept using the same old tired, same old things that people got sick of over time. And because of it, it died. And he wasn't paying attention. So yeah, um, I miss WCW, and I wish it was still around to this day, and I just miss it. I miss it. Of course, we've lost a lot of great wrestlers along the way. Um, so yeah, I sucks, but as they say, nothing lasts forever. So with that, I'm going to go it on and get started. Have my notes right here in front of me. You can see a little bit closer. What made WCW so great? WCW, better known as World Championship Wrestling, has been synonymous for decades and it still breathes in the minds of us wrestling fans today. In the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, WCW's popularity was at an all time high. And yes, they dominated the WWE 83 weeks in a row. However, over time, the success that made WCW the wrestling giant it became quickly evaporated and died out. This week on Wrestling Quick Takes, I will be talking about what made WCW so great, plus why it was so successful. So let's do it. First reason, a huge main roster. WCW's roster was loaded with talent in the 1990s, and it showed no signs of slowing down. According to the Sportster.com, a big reason WCW dominated for so long in the 1990s was the incredible amount of talent on their roster. They already had big names like Sting and Ric Flair on board, wrestlers who helped define the company for years. Then WCW took things up a notch when they started bringing in the biggest stars WWE had at the time. It started with Lex Luger, but exploded after that as Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and a ver- and a and a variable flood of talent started rolling in. That also played a role in the company's demise, but it was a great thing for a while. So you bring in guys like Hulk Hogan, Savage, Hall, and Nash, and they were good for a while. I mean, it had some success, it had a bunch of success, but then over time, it just grew old and old and old. And people got tired of it, and they didn't like seeing the same old bullshit thing over and over again on a nightly basis. So they grew tired of it, and then that's when a lot of those fans who love WCW they switched over to WWE, and then they started going to WWE in droves. So it was successful for a minute. Taking big swings. In order for a wrestling promotion to make it, you have to take gambles. In other words, you have to take big swings. And that's what WCW did. A big reason why fans gravitated towards WCW was the fact that the company was willing to take big swings. They didn't always work out very well, but fans appreciated the attempts. At least they at least they were trying to offer something different. Having Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest baby faces of all time, turn heel was risky at best, but it certainly paid off. The fact that WCW was up for big ideas like that was a huge positive. But for every Hulk Hogan, but for every Hulk Hogan turning heel, there were 10 Shockmasters, so it wasn't all wine and roses. Of course, I mean, Hogan turning heel, I mean, a lot of people hated it. I mean, including myself. I mean, after 10, 15 years of being this baby face and being a role model for fans and kids, why would you sell your soul to the devil like that? Why would you um, basically cash in all your chips and turn heel and become Hollywood? I mean, I'm still blown away from that to this day. And I would have been 6 years old when he turned heel. And I remember it very well. And I I didn't like it at all. And then, of course, the Shockmasters. I mean, those were, yeah, not even going to comment on those. Sting versus Ric Flair. Oh, it's Ric Flair and Sting. These two were the yardstick of WCW, and the rivalry between these two was flawless. There were a lot of big rivalries throughout the 1990s in WCW, many of which involved members of the NWO. But the defining rivalry of the company was Sting and Ric Flair. That's why they were the final match of the company. Even though they weren't always at each other's throats, their professional feud was what made WCW great. Their matches go back to the 80s, and their last one happened in in TNA in 2011. But their best run was in the early to mid 1990s with a string of matches in WCW that have become absolutely legendary at this point. So Sting and Ric Flair, obviously, um, they they were the yardstick of WCW. I mean, they met at night, most notably 1990 at the Great American Bash. Sting beating Ric Flair to become the world heavyweight champion. I think those two were definitely instrumental in WCW success, the WCW product, and that's what put a lot of asses in seats if you really think about it. And had it not been for those two, I shudder to think where WCW would have been had they not gotten those two. An incomparable cruiserweight division. The Daredevils of WCW was an instrumental piece of WCW success, and they took world championship wrestling to heights never before seen. While WCW didn't always seem to be aware of this fact, a key component of what they offered wrestling fans was their stacked cruiserweight division. WWE has continued to try to build a similar division, but it doesn't compare to what WCW had in the 90s. It was almost overflowing with incredible talent. Most fans remember names like Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, and Eddie Guerrero. But Juventud Guerrero, Billy Kidman, Ultimo Dragon, and La Parka were also a huge part of what made that division the draw it was. So here's another one. Um, I love the cruiserweight division in WCW. Um, my one of my favorite divisions all time. I mean, come on, you had Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, um, who else? La Parka, Billy Kidman, Juventud Guerrero, Psychosis, Super Crazy. Who else was in there? Um, let's see. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Trying to think. Oh, maybe you look at someone like, say, oh, Mike Sanders over time, um, Chris Jericho. And Perry Saturn. So those names would be added over time, and it just grew and grew and grew, and it became must see television. I mean, they had matches that even to this day I would go back and watch. NWO changed the business. It's a chant that is still being heard around the world today. even at social gatherings and music and in music videos. The NWO is just too sweet. To me, it never gets old, and just for the hell of it, I chant it. The NWO is why the business at an all-time high, and they became the face of professional wrestling. July 7th, 1996 is a day that continues to live in wrestling infamy. It all started when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash left WWE only a couple months earlier. They quickly debuted in WCW, which led to a six-man tag team at Bash at the Beach. Hogan was revealed as their secret partner in training, in turning him heel and forming the New World Order. This move look this move rocked the entire wrestling industry and gave WCW a huge advantage over WWE. It allowed WCW to dominate their main competitor for a long time, drawing fans into one of the top factions and stories of the era. So the NWO was an obvious choice here. So Kevin Nash actually didn't want to leave WWE. I mean, as many of you know, I mean, Kevin Nash and Vince McMahon actually had a conversation, and he told Vince, he said, this is the offer they gave me. And if you could match this offer, then I'll stay. He didn't want to leave. So Vince couldn't match the offer, and he ends up signing it with Turner and WCW, and they ended up forming the NWO, and they changed the business forever. Turning Hulk Hogan heel after all these years being a babyface was a risky move, but in the end, it paid off. And that's why the NWO is in the Hall of Fame. That is why the NWO is without a shadow of a doubt one of the most legendary figures in professional wrestling. That that it don't get no better than the black and white. The underdog effect. The underdog story is truly a good thing in life because nobody ever gives you a chance, then you prove them wrong. Everybody seems to love a good underdog story. The filmmakers in Hollywood are obsessed with with the concept the one of the of the ones of the ones who nobody believed in, making good and breaking through a success on the other side. When WCW first stepped into the ring, pun intended, with WWE, they were clearly the underdog promotion. WWE had already been established and was operating on a global level. Therefore, the will of the underdog would have to shine through and help find that sought after wrestling success. So for a good little minute, I mean, in the early '90s, well before WCW started kicking their butts, um, WCW was the underdog. I mean, WWE was on another level, both professionally and globally. I mean, once WCW started gaining some momentum and having success, I mean, they became global. They became international. That really stepped up WCW's success. I mean, he Eric Bischoff had to, because if he didn't, then he would have been out of business sooner than didn't imagine. And when you look at what WCW went through to see them beating WWE, it's truly remarkable. It's truly remarkable. Truly remarkable. Straight from tradition. Tradition has always been a plus in the wrestling business. But when you go away from tradition, that's when you could have endless possibilities. In the very early stages of WCW, the promotion remained true to the traditions and values of the NWA, which was essentially the mother of WCW. However, much like every teenager rebels against their parents, WCW would stray from tradition. Suddenly, what was once frowned upon in professional wrestling was now the norm of WCW. WCW was the first mainstream wrestling promotion. ECW was not a member of the mainstream wrestling society to really step away from wrestling traditions, forcing WWE to follow suit in the process. So WWE was already mainstream well before WCW was. And when you think about it, WWE was at a point to where they started getting celebrities like Donald Trump, like, you know, Alex Trebek, like Pat Sajak and Vanna White, Willa Ford. They started getting those big name celebrities. I mean, WCW when they really started having success, I mean, they had to step it up. I mean, Dennis Rodman and Hogan versus Karl Malone and DDP. Uh, you know, Jay Leno. Remember that back then. Uh, who else was there? Chucky. It once WCW went mainstream, that's when for a while they were untouchable, and so be it there. Going live. Live TV is what drives us wrestling fans to turn on the TV and watch what the other promotion is going to do next or who's going to make that jump. Even now, the evolution of television is growing at a rapid pace. Streaming is getting involved, and they are taking notice. Monday Nitro was introduced to the wrestling world on September 4th, 1995. The new program came out guns a-blazing that night in Minnesota, and WCW made it crystal clear that on night one that they would come to take over and defeat WWE. Meanwhile, much of the WWE programming of the time was pre-recorded, which had always worked well in the part in the past, but with the new competition going live each week, there was a drastic need to change the formula. Live wrestling will always draw better than pre-recorded. So people were getting sick and tired of the cartoonish crap slash pre-recorded crap that WWE was doing at the time, and Bischoff didn't know what to do. So Bischoff, one day, he's at Ted's office, and Ted Turner says, "Yo, Eric, what do you think we ought to do to compete with WWE on a nightly basis?" And Eric Bischoff did the only thing he knew how to do. He stuttered. He didn't know. He was like, da, 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 da. And then he says, "Give me prime time on a Monday night." Ted Turner goes, "Hey, give Eric 2 hours every Monday night on TNT." And that's how Nitro was born. And man, there were some strong moments on Nitro. From there, WWE was in the gutter. I mean, they didn't really stand a chance at all. And from there, it just took off. gave away gave away results. WCW did a lot of things that were against the rules and got away with it. They didn't care at all. The one thing they didn't get away with was giving away the results of WWE's shows. Keeping with the live aspect of WCW, an opportunity would present itself to Eric Bischoff that was deemed immoral by many in the wrestling community. However, Bischoff was going to do whatever he had to do to win. With Monday night with Monday Night Raw already recorded, Eric Bischoff would on live television give away the results of WWE programming. Thus, the weekly channel surfer would have no reason to switch over to WWE. This foul act would, of course, blow up in Eric Bischoff's face when he decided to give away the result of Mick Foley winning the WWE Championship. Eric Bischoff did a lot of shit, bro, that drug that company under. But I mean, the moment he gave away, or I guess it was Tony Schiavone at the time. I mean, you know, the moment he gave away live results on the air, that that really would it made Eric look bad. I mean, I understand you want to get the the better of the two products, but come on, bro. You can't give away, live programming on TV. And that that's that. Lastly, but certainly not least, the cool factor. Everything about WCW was cool. The WCW brand as a whole was cool and it showed over time. While WWE were still relying on tired old concepts and silly cartoon like characters, WCW were providing fans with an entirely new outlook on professional wrestling. Things over in WCW seemed more sly and more sleek. There was a cool factor at playing WCW, and for a while it was making WWE look like a geeky little product that couldn't adapt with the times. WCW tapped into the popular culture of the 90s and made something happen. Let's not discredit ECW and its contribution to wrestling's cool factor. But WCW have more eyes on their product. That's all for this week, and until next time, God bless. So that's it, guys. So I was thinking, how could I, draw, make this channel more appealing? And I was wondering, I was thinking about turning this segment into more of a show and see how you guys would react and respond to it. So I'm actually this week giving some serious thought into doing, like a daily show, like every weekend around maybe say, maybe 6 o'clock, possibly 7 o'clock, but I'll be live in my room. I haven't given it thought yet. So continue to check back for Twitter. And what the show is going to be about is going to be about, the week in WW this week in WWE, what's going on there, the whole 9 yards. And, I'll just go from there. So yeah. So anyway, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Wrestling Quick Takes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And please comment. And until next time, guys, God bless.